Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the incredible engineering that powers the massive AI search systems we use every single day. We're going to see how they can handle billions upon billions of data points without even breaking a sweat.
I mean, it really does feel like magic, doesn't it? You search for something and boom, the perfect result appears instantly. But behind that magic is a huge engineering puzzle, and it all starts with one single massive problem. And that problem is memory, plain and simple. In AI, everything, images, text, you name it, gets turned into these numerical lists called vectors. And just to hold 1 billion of those in memory, you're looking at around 3 terabytes of RAM. And that's before you even build the index to search them. A single computer just can't do it. It hits a wall. And that's why these systems have to be distributed. Okay, so how do engineers actually pull this off? Well, we're going to walk through their playbook. We'll start with the core idea of splitting up the data, which is called sharding. Then we'll look at how they make copies for safety, which is replication. After that, we dive into the really tough trade-offs around consistency. And finally, we'll see how the biggest names in the game put all these pieces together in the real world. All right, first up is the foundational pillar of scale, sharding. At its heart, it's a simple idea. It's the classic divide and conquer strategy, but for a mountain of data. You just break one giant, impossible data set into smaller, manageable chunks. But here's where it gets interesting. The most critical decision you have to make is how you split that data. You can't just slice it up randomly and call it a day. The method you choose has a massive, direct impact on the speed and efficiency of every single search query you run. And really, engineers face a choice between two totally opposite strategies. On one side, you have random sharding. Think of it like shuffling a deck of cards and dealing them out. On the other side, you have content-based sharding. This is more like organizing a library, where you group all the books about history together in one section. Now, random sharding, which you'll see in popular databases like Milvus and Qdrant, is great for a couple of big reasons. It gives you perfect load balancing, which means no single machine in your system gets overloaded. It also makes adding new data super fast. But, and this is a big but, that randomness comes at a really steep price. Because your similar data is scattered everywhere, if you search for something, you have to ask every single shard in the system for an answer. This is what's known as the scatter-gather penalty. And you can see right here how inefficient this is. Your search query gets scattered out to all the machines. Each one does its own little search. Then a central coordinator has to gather all those results back together. This means your whole search is only as fast as your slowest machine. It's a huge problem called tail latency amplification. So to get around that penalty, some systems like Cloudflare Vectorize do the exact opposite. They use content-based sharding. They intelligently group similar vectors together into what you could call semantic shards. And this is an absolute game changer for speed. The system can now prune the search. It knows it only needs to ask the 1 or 2 shards that are actually relevant. This cuts down network traffic, it reduces CPU load, and it totally dodges that slowest shard problem we just talked about. But, as you probably guessed, this creates a new problem. What happens if a topic suddenly gets really popular? Let's say some breaking news story. Well, all the queries for that news story are going to hammer that one specific shard, and that creates a bottleneck, what engineers call a hot shard, where one machine is totally overwhelmed while all the others are just sitting around. Okay, let's move on to our second big pillar, replication. Sharding solved the size problem, but replication answers a totally different but just as critical question. What happens if one of these machines just dies? The basic idea is pretty simple, right? Just make copies of your data and put them on different machines. But, just like with sharding, the devil is in the details. How you keep those copies in sync is another one of these huge architectural decisions with massive consequences. So, there are 2 main models here. You have leader-based replication, which systems like Qdrant use. Here, one leader copy is in charge of all the updates to keep everything in perfect order. This choice prioritizes consistency. The alternative is leaderless replication, used by Weaviate, where any copy can take an update. This prioritizes high availability, basically making sure the system is always online. Now there's a really fascinating third model popping up, led by platforms like Pinecone Serverless. They completely separate or disaggregate the data storage from the compute power that actually runs the queries. The data, the single source of truth, lives in a super durable place like Amazon S3.
and the search machines just pull down what they need right when they need it. And that idea of separation leads us directly to the ultimate headache in any distributed system, the constant, unavoidable battle for consistency. Can data really be both lightning fast and perfectly up to date everywhere all at the same time?
The answer is famously no, and it's defined by the CAP theorem. You can think of this as a law of physics for distributed systems. It says you get to pick 2 out of these 3 things: consistency, availability, or partition tolerance. And since networks fail, that's just a fact of life, you are always forced into a painful choice between perfect consistency, where everyone sees the same data, and perfect availability, where the system is always online.
But it's not just a black and white choice. Modern systems actually offer a whole menu of consistency options. You can have strong consistency, which is the safest but also the slowest. Or you can have eventual consistency, which is way faster but means you might briefly see old data. And then there are these clever middle grounds, like what Milvus does with bounded staleness, which basically guarantees your results are never more than, say, a few seconds out of date. Okay, so we've covered the building blocks, right? How to split data, how to copy it, and all the consistency trade-offs you have to make. Now for the really fun part. Let's look under the hood and see how these ideas actually come together in the big name vector databases that people are using today. When you see them all laid out like this, the main takeaway is crystal clear. There is no single best way to build one of these things. Each platform makes a different set of trade-offs. You see Milvus and Pinecone are betting on these flexible cloud-native designs. Qtrant is all about raw performance, and Weaviate is focused on being available no matter what. The right choice is all about what your specific application needs. So if we boil this all down, building a vector database that can scale isn't about finding one magic bullet. It's a series of really tough, deliberate engineering choices. It's balancing load versus query speed. It's choosing consistency or availability. And a huge trend we're seeing is this move towards completely separating storage from compute. And that really gets to the heart of it. As we've seen, it's not just about who has the fastest search algorithm anymore. The real challenge, and the thing that truly sets these platforms apart, is the sophisticated, resilient, and scalable distributed system that holds the whole thing together. Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. As these disaggregated, separated architectures become the standard for vector data, you have to wonder, are we actually witnessing a fundamental shift in how all large-scale data systems are going to be built from now on?